My wife died 6 months ago, leaving me with a teenage daughter who blamed me for everything. While packing her belongings, I found a box of old cassette tapes hidden in her closet. I pressed play, expecting to hear music from our college days. Instead, I heard my wife's voice revealing a secret she had left specifically for our daughter, one that would change everything between us. Before we dive into this emotional journey, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Drop your city in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for more incredible stories every day. Now let's head back to that painful afternoon in my wife's bedroom. The silence in our house had become a living thing, thick and suffocating, filling every corner with the weight of words we couldn't say to each other. It had been 6 months since Sarah died, 6 months since cancer took away the woman who had been the heart of our family, the translator between a practical father and a passionate teenage daughter who seemed to speak completely different languages. Zoe blamed me. I could see it in her eyes every morning when she grabbed her backpack and left for school without saying goodbye. I could hear it in the way she answered my questions with single syllables, in the way she turned up her music when I tried to talk to her, in the way she looked at me like I was a stranger who had somehow failed the most important test of his life. "You didn't fight hard enough," she had screamed at me the night after the funeral, her 16-year-old face twisted with grief and rage. "You just gave up. You let her die." I had tried to explain that we had done everything. Every treatment, every experimental drug, every prayer and hope and desperate bargain with a universe that seemed determined to take Sarah away from us. But Zoe didn't want explanations. She wanted someone to blame, and I was the only target left. So we lived like ghosts in our own home, moving around each other carefully, avoiding the landmines of memory that seemed to be buried in every room. Sarah's coffee mug still sat in the kitchen cabinet. Her books were still stacked on the nightstand. Her clothes still hung in the closet, and every time I walked past our bedroom, I could smell the faint trace of her perfume, a reminder of everything I had lost. I had been putting off the inevitable task of going through Sarah's belongings. It felt like a betrayal, like I was erasing her from our lives one item at a time. But the grief counselor had been gentle but firm. Holding on to everything wasn't healthy for me or for Zoe. We needed to start the process of moving forward, even if it felt impossible. It was a gray Saturday afternoon in November when I finally forced myself to open the bedroom door and begin. Zoe was at her friend Madison's house, which had become her refuge from the sadness that permeated our home. I had the house to myself, and several empty boxes that I had been staring at for weeks. I started with the easy things: old magazines, expired medications, the stack of get well cards that had accumulated during Sarah's final months. Each item was a small decision: keep, donate, or throw away. Most of it was easy to categorize, but every few minutes I would find something that stopped me cold. A ticket stub from a movie we had seen on our anniversary, a grocery list written in her careful handwriting, a bookmark she had made from a pressed flower. It was when I reached the top shelf of her closet that I found the box. It was a simple cardboard shoebox, the kind that might hold old photographs or important documents. But when I lifted it down and opened it, I found something I hadn't expected. A collection of cassette tapes, each one carefully labeled with a number and a date. The tapes were old, the kind we used to make in college when we would record songs off the radio or create mixtapes for each other. Sarah had been sentimental about music, always saying that certain songs could transport her back to specific moments in time. I assumed these were compilations she had made over the years, musical time capsules from different periods of our life together. I carried the box downstairs to the living room, where Sarah's old boombox still sat on the bookshelf. We had kept it for nostalgia, even though we rarely used it anymore. I pulled out the first tape, labeled simply 1 and dated from 8 months ago, right around the time Sarah had started her final round of chemotherapy. I slipped the tape into the player and pressed play. expecting to hear the opening notes of some song that would bring back memories of our younger days. Instead, I heard something that made my heart stop. Sarah's voice, clear and strong, speaking directly to me across the months that separated us. "Hi, baby," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "If you're listening to this, it means you finally found my secret project. I hope Zoe is with you, because these aren't really for you. They're for her. But I know you'll want to hear them first, to make sure they're okay. That's just who you are, always trying to protect us." I sank into the couch, my hands shaking as I held the small plastic case. Sarah's voice continued, warm and familiar, as if she were sitting right next to me. "I started making these tapes when Dr. Martinez told us that the treatment wasn't working anymore. I knew I was running out of time, and I kept thinking about all the things I wanted to tell Zoe, all the stories I wanted to share with her, all the advice I wanted to give her for the life she's going to live without me." My throat tightened as I listened to my wife's voice, so full of love and determination, even in the face of her own mortality. "I know she's angry right now," Sarah continued. "I know she's probably angry at you, angry at me, angry at the whole world for being so unfair. That's okay. Anger is just love with nowhere to go. But I want her to know that she doesn't have to carry that anger forever. And I want her to know that you're not the enemy, Kevin. You're the best man I've ever known, and you're exactly the father she needs, even if she can't see it right now." The tape continued for another 40 minutes, with Sarah telling stories about her own teenage years, about the fights she had with her parents, about the mistakes she made and the lessons she learned. She talked about meeting me in college, about our first date, about the moment she knew she wanted to spend her life with me. "Your father," she said, speaking directly to Zoe now, "is the kind of man who will drive 3 hours to bring you soup when you're sick at college. He's the kind of man who remembers the names of all your friends and asks about them. He's the kind of man who cried when you took your first steps, who stayed up all night when you had pneumonia when you were 7, who learned to braid hair just so he could help you get ready for school." I was crying now, tears streaming down my face as I listened to Sarah defend me to our daughter, as she tried to build a bridge across the chasm that grief had created between us. When the first tape ended, I immediately put in the second one. This one was different. Sarah was telling stories about her childhood, about her relationship with her own mother, about the dreams she had when she was Zoe's age. "I wanted to be a writer," she said. "I used to fill notebooks with stories and poems, and I was convinced I was going to be the next Maya Angelou. Your grandmother thought it was impractical, and she was probably right, but she never told me to stop dreaming. She just said, 'Make sure you have a backup plan and make sure you marry someone who believes in your dreams.'" Sarah laughed, and the sound was like sunlight breaking through clouds. "I found that person in your father. He read every terrible poem I wrote in college. He encouraged me to submit my stories to magazines even when they got rejected. And when I decided to become a teacher instead of a novelist, he never once said, 'I told you so.' He just said, 'You're going to change so many lives.'" I listened to tape after tape, each one revealing new layers of the woman I thought I knew completely. Sarah talked about her fears, her hopes, her regrets. She shared stories I had never heard, memories from before we met, dreams she had never told me about. But more than anything, she talked about Zoe, about the day she was born, about her first word, about the way she used to fall asleep listening to Sarah read to her. She talked about Zoe's artistic talent, her fierce independence, her capacity for love and loyalty. "You are so much like me at your age," Sarah said on the 4th tape. "Passionate, stubborn, convinced that the world is either completely wonderful or completely terrible, with no in-between. That's not a bad thing, sweetheart. That passion is going to serve you well in life, but you have to learn to channel it, to use it to build things instead of tear them down. It was on the sixth tape that Sarah addressed the elephant in the room directly. "I know you're angry at your father," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "I know you think he didn't do enough to save me, that he gave up too easily. But honey, that's not true. Your father fought for me every single day. He researched every treatment, he drove me to every appointment, he held my hand through every procedure. He slept in hospital chairs for weeks at a time. He never gave up on me, not for a single moment." Sarah's voice broke slightly, and I could hear her take a shaky breath before continuing. "The truth is, I was ready to go before he was ready to let me go. I was tired, Zoe. I was in pain and I was scared. But mostly I was tired of fighting a battle I couldn't win. Your father wanted to keep trying, wanted to pursue more treatments, more experimental drugs. But I asked him to stop. I asked him to let me go with dignity, surrounded by the people I loved." I had to pause the tape, overwhelmed by the memory of that conversation. Sarah had been so calm, so certain, while I had been desperate and grasping for any possibility that might save her. "Don't blame him for honoring my wishes," Sarah continued when I pressed play again. "Blame him for loving me enough to let me make my own choices, even when those choices broke his heart." I spent the entire afternoon listening to the tapes, each one a gift from the woman I had lost, each one a piece of her heart that she had left behind for our daughter. By the time Zoe came home from Madison's house, I had listened to 8 of the 12 tapes, and I was emotionally drained but also filled with something I hadn't felt in months: hope. Zoe found me in the living room, surrounded by the cassette tapes, my eyes red from crying. She stopped in the doorway, her expression shifting from her usual guarded hostility to something that looked almost like concern. "Dad? What's wrong? What are those?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and saw Sarah in the curve of her cheek, in the way she tilted her head when she was curious, in the fierce intelligence that burned in her dark eyes. "They're from your mom," I said simply. "She made them for you." Zoe's face went through a series of emotions: confusion, disbelief, and then a desperate kind of hope that she was trying hard to hide. "What do you mean?" I held up one of the tapes. "She recorded stories for you, memories, advice, things she wanted you to know. She started making them when she got sick, when she knew—" I couldn't finish the sentence, but I didn't need to. Zoe understood. "Can I—" she started, then stopped as if she was afraid to ask for something she wanted so desperately. "Of course," I said, moving over to make room for her on the couch. "I think we should listen to them together." Zoe hesitated for a moment, and I could see the internal battle playing out on her face. For months she had been holding on to her anger like armor, using it to protect herself from the full weight of her grief. Sitting down next to me, listening to her mother's voice together, would mean letting that armor down. Finally, she crossed the room and sat on the far end of the couch, as far from me as possible, while still being able to hear the tape player. "Start from the beginning," she said quietly. I rewound the first tape and pressed play. Sarah's voice filled the room again, warm and loving, speaking directly to our daughter. "Hi, my beautiful girl," Sarah said. "If you're listening to this, it means I'm not there to tell you these things in person. But I want you to know that even though I can't be with you physically, my love for you is going to last forever. It's going to be in every sunset you watch, every book you read, every time you laugh so hard your stomach hurts." I watched Zoe's face as she heard her mother's voice for the first time in 6 months. Her carefully constructed walls began to crumble and tears started streaming down her cheeks. "I have so many things I want to tell you," Sarah continued. "Stories about our family, about your father and me, about the woman I hope you'll become. But first, I want you to know that you are the best thing I ever did with my life. You are smart and talented and kind, and you're going to do amazing things in this world." Zoe was sobbing now, and without thinking, I moved closer to her on the couch. For a moment I thought she might pull away, but instead she leaned into me and I wrapped my arms around her for the first time since the funeral. We listened to the entire first tape together, crying and laughing as Sarah told stories about Zoe's childhood, about the time she tried to give the cat a haircut, about the elaborate fairy houses she used to build in the backyard, about the way she used to insist on wearing her Halloween costume to the grocery store in July. She remembered everything, Zoe whispered when the tape ended. "She loved you so much," I said. "We both do." For the first time in months, Zoe didn't pull away when I said that. Instead, she looked at me with something that wasn't anger or blame, but just sadness, the pure, clean sadness of missing someone we both loved. "Can we listen to another one?" she asked. We spent the next 3 hours listening to Sarah's tapes together. We heard stories about Sarah's own teenage years, about the fights she had with her parents, about the boy she thought she was going to marry before she met me, about the dreams she had and the mistakes she made. "I want you to know that it's okay to make mistakes," Sarah said on one of the tapes. "I want you to know that it's okay to fail sometimes, to not have all the answers, to feel lost and confused. That's all part of growing up. The important thing is to keep trying, to keep learning, to keep being kind to yourself and to other people." On another tape, Sarah talked about her relationship with me, about how we met and fell in love, about the early years of our marriage when we were broke and happy and convinced we could conquer the world together. "Your father," she said, "is the most patient man I've ever known. He's the kind of person who will listen to you practice the same piano piece 50 times without complaining. He's the kind of person who will drive around for an hour looking for the specific ice cream flavor you're craving. He's the kind of person who will love you even when you're being difficult, even when you're pushing him away, even when you're convinced that nobody understands you." I felt Zoe's body relax against mine as she listened to her mother's words. The anger that had been radiating from her for months was slowly being replaced by something softer, something that felt like the beginning of forgiveness. "I know you're probably angry at him right now," Sarah continued, as if she could see into the future, as if she knew exactly what would happen after she was gone. "I know you probably blame him for not being able to save me. But honey, some things can't be saved, no matter how much love we throw at them. Some things are just bigger than we are." Sarah's voice became softer, more intimate, as if she were whispering directly into Zoe's ear. "Your father loved me enough to let me go when I was ready to go. That's the hardest kind of love there is, the kind that puts the other person's needs before your own wants. Don't punish him for being brave enough to love me that way." By the time we finished listening to the 4th tape, it was nearly midnight. Zoe was exhausted, emotionally drained from hearing her mother's voice, from processing months of grief that she had been holding inside. "Dad," she said as we were putting the tapes away, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for blaming you. I'm sorry for being so angry." I pulled her into a hug, and this time she didn't resist. "You don't have to apologize for grieving, sweetheart. You don't have to apologize for missing her. I just miss her so much," Zoe whispered into my shoulder. "I miss talking to her. I miss her advice. I miss the way she used to make everything okay." "I miss her too," I said. "Every single day." We established a new ritual after that night. Every Sunday evening, Zoe and I would sit together in the living room and listen to one of Sarah's tapes. We would make popcorn and hot chocolate, and we would let Sarah's voice fill the silence that had been dividing us for so long. Each tape revealed new layers of the woman we had both loved. Sarah talked about her dreams for Zoe's future, about the colleges she hoped Zoe would consider, about the career paths that might suit her artistic temperament. She shared stories about her own mother, about the lessons she had learned about being a woman in the world, about the importance of standing up for yourself while still being kind to others. "I want you to travel," Sarah said on the 7th tape. "I want you to see places I never got to see, to experience things I never got to experience. But more than that, I want you to be brave. I want you to take risks, to fall in love, to have your heart broken, and then put it back together again. I want you to live a big, messy, beautiful life." On the 8th tape, Sarah talked about her illness, about the fear and uncertainty that came with a terminal diagnosis, but also about the clarity it had given her. "Getting sick taught me what really matters," she said. "It's not the house or the car or the clothes in your closet. It's the people you love and the memories you make with them. It's the way your father's face lights up when he talks about you. It's the sound of your laugh when you think something is really funny. It's the feeling of being completely known and completely loved by another person." The 9th tape was perhaps the most difficult to listen to. Sarah talked about dying, about her fears for Zoe and me, about the things she wished she could be there for. "I'm going to miss your graduation," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm going to miss your wedding, if you choose to get married. I'm going to miss meeting your children if you choose to have them, and that breaks my heart in ways I can't even describe." Zoe was crying again, and I felt my own tears starting to fall. "But here's what I want you to remember," Sarah continued. "I'm going to be there in all the ways that matter. I'm going to be in the strength you show when things get difficult. I'm going to be in the kindness you show to other people. I'm going to be in the way you love your father and the way he loves you. Love doesn't die when people die, Zoe. It just changes form." The 10th tape was different from all the others. When it started, instead of Sarah's speaking voice, we heard the soft strumming of a guitar. Then Sarah began to sing, not a song from the radio, but something she had written herself. Her voice gentle and slightly hoarse from the treatments, but still beautiful. "My sweet girl, when I'm not here, look for me in the morning light. Look for me in the books you read and the pictures that you paint so bright. I'll be the voice that says keep going when the world seems dark and cold. I'll be the love that lives inside you as you grow up brave and bold." Zoe gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "She's singing to me," she whispered. "She wrote me a song." The melody was simple but haunting, and Sarah's voice carried all the love and tenderness that she had poured into raising our daughter. She sang about memories they had shared, about dreams she had for Zoe's future, about the unbreakable bond between a mother and daughter. "When you're scared and feeling lonely, when you don't know what to do, close your eyes and hear me singing. I believe in you. Though my arms can't hold you tightly, though my voice may fade away, in your heart, I'll keep on singing every single night and day." By the time the song ended, both Zoe and I were sobbing. It was the most beautiful, heartbreaking gift. Sarah's voice carrying a melody she had created just for her daughter, a lullaby that would last forever. "She used to sing to me when I was little," Zoe said through her tears. "When I had nightmares, when I was sick, when I couldn't fall asleep. I had forgotten how beautiful her voice was." "She wanted you to remember," I said, pulling Zoe closer. "She wanted you to have something that was just yours." The 11th tape was a collection of Sarah's favorite memories: our wedding day, the day Zoe was born, family vacations, quiet Sunday mornings, ordinary moments that had become precious in retrospect. "The best parts of life," Sarah said, "are usually the parts you don't think to take pictures of. They're the conversations in the car, the inside jokes, the way your family looks when they think no one is watching. They're the moments when you realize that this, right here, right now, is exactly where you're supposed to be." The 12th and final tape was the hardest to listen to. Sarah's voice was weaker, more tired, and I could tell it had been recorded near the end, when she was spending most of her time in bed. "This is my last tape," she said simply. "I don't have much energy left, but I have a few more things I need to say." She talked about her hopes for Zoe's future, about the woman she believed Zoe would become. She talked about her gratitude for the life she had lived, for the love she had experienced, for the privilege of being Zoe's mother and my wife. "I need you both to promise me something," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need you to promise me that you'll take care of each other. Zoe, your father is going to need you. He's going to be lost for a while and he's going to make mistakes, but he loves you more than anything in this world. Be patient with him. Help him remember how to laugh again." She paused, and I could hear her labored breathing through the speakers. "And Kevin," she said, speaking directly to me now, "Zoe is going to need you to be strong, even when you don't feel strong. She's going to need you to be her father and her friend, and sometimes her mother too. She's going to push you away sometimes, but don't let her. Keep showing up, keep loving her, keep believing in her even when she doesn't believe in herself." The tape was quiet for a long moment, and I thought it might be over. But then Sarah's voice came back, softer now, and she began to hum the melody from the song she had sung on the 10th tape. It was just a few bars, but it felt like a musical hug, a final reminder of the love that would always connect us. "I love you both so much," she said. "I love you more than all the stars in the sky, more than all the words in all the books, more than all the music that's ever been written. And that love is going to last forever. It's going to be with you when you're happy and when you're sad, when you're scared and when you're brave, when you're together and when you're apart." The tape ended with the soft click of the recorder being turned off, and Zoe and I sat in the silence that followed, holding each other and crying for the woman who had loved us enough to leave us this incredible gift. "She knew," Zoe said finally. "She knew exactly what we would need to hear." "She always knew what we needed," I said. "That was her superpower." In the weeks that followed, Zoe and I began to rebuild our relationship on the foundation that Sarah had laid for us. We talked more, laughed more, shared memories and stories and dreams for the future. The anger that had been consuming Zoe began to transform into something healthier, a deep sadness that we could share, a grief that brought us together instead of driving us apart. We kept the ritual of listening to the tapes, cycling through them again and again, finding new meaning in Sarah's words each time we heard them. But it was the song that became our most treasured possession. Zoe would often ask to hear it when she was having a particularly difficult day, and I would play it for her, watching as her mother's voice wrapped around her like a warm embrace. "Do you think Mom would be proud of me?" Zoe asked one evening as we were listening to the tape where Sarah talked about her hopes for Zoe's artistic career. "I think she would be amazed by you," I said. "I think she would be proud of your talent, but more than that, she would be proud of your heart. She would be proud of the way you've learned to carry your grief without letting it destroy you." Zoe started painting again, something she hadn't done since Sarah died. She created a series of portraits inspired by the stories on the tapes, images of Sarah as a young woman, as a new mother, as the vibrant, loving person we both remembered. But her masterpiece was a painting of Sarah singing, her face tilted toward the light, her mouth open in song, her eyes closed in peaceful concentration. I started writing again, too, something I hadn't done since college. I wrote letters to Sarah telling her about Zoe's progress, about the ways we were healing, about how her tapes had saved us both. I never sent the letters, but writing them helped me process my own grief, helped me find words for feelings that had seemed too big for language. 6 months after we found the tapes, Zoe came to me with an idea. "Dad," she said, "I want to make a tape for Mom." "What do you mean?" "I want to record a message for her telling her about everything that's happened since she died, about school, about my art, about how we're doing. I know she can't hear it, but I think it would help me feel closer to her. We set up the old tape recorder in the living room, and Zoe spent an hour talking to her mother, telling her about her junior year of high school, about the boys she had a crush on, about the college applications she was starting to think about. She told Sarah about the paintings she had been working on, about the way she and I had learned to cook together, about the inside jokes we had developed while listening to the tapes. At the end of her recording, Zoe did something that took my breath away. She picked up her guitar, the same one Sarah had used to record her song, and she sang. Not Sarah's song, but a new one she had written herself, a response to her mother's lullaby. Thank you for the song you left me. Thank you for your voice so true. When the world gets dark and scary, I can hear you singing too. Though I miss you every morning, though I wish that you were here, in my heart you keep on singing, and your love casts out my fear. When Zoe finished her song, I made a tape too. I told Sarah about the man I was trying to become, about the father I was learning to be, about the ways her love continued to guide us even in her absence. You saved us, I said into the microphone. Even after you were gone, you saved us. You knew exactly what we would need, and you gave it to us. You gave us each other. A year after Sarah's death, Zoe and I were in a completely different place than we had been in those first dark months. We had learned to talk to each other, to support each other, to be a family of two instead of a family of three. The house was still full of Sarah's presence, but it no longer felt like a shrine to the past. It felt like a home where love lived, where memories were treasured, where the future was possible. On the anniversary of Sarah's death, Zoe and I visited her grave together. We brought flowers, sunflowers, her favorite, and we brought a small portable speaker. We played Sarah's song there in the cemetery, letting her voice carry across the quiet space, letting her melody remind us once again that love doesn't end when life ends. Thank you, I whispered to the headstone. Thank you for knowing what we would need. Thank you for loving us enough to leave us a roadmap back to each other. As we walked back to the car, Zoe slipped her hand into mine, something she hadn't done since she was a little girl. Dad, she said, I think Mom would be happy with how we turned out. I think so too, I said. I think she would be very proud of both of us. The tapes had given us more than just Sarah's voice. They had given us permission to grieve, to heal, to love each other imperfectly but completely. They had shown us that even in death, love finds a way to bridge the gaps between people, to heal the wounds that loss creates, to remind us that we are never truly alone as long as we carry the love of those who came before us. Sarah's voice, both spoken and sung, had become the soundtrack to our healing, the gentle guide that led us back to each other and forward into a future that she would never see but had helped us learn to embrace. In leaving us those tapes, she had given us the greatest gift possible, the knowledge that love transcends death, that family is stronger than grief, and that sometimes the most powerful words are the ones spoken by someone who is no longer there to say them in person. What an absolutely beautiful and heartbreaking story about love that transcends death and the healing power of a mother's voice. Sarah's foresight in creating those tapes shows the depth of a parent's love. What do you think about Sarah's decision to record these messages? Have you ever left or received a message that changed everything? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you were moved by this powerful story of grief, healing, and the unbreakable bonds of family, please show your support by hitting that like button, and be sure to subscribe for more incredible stories every day. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.